Hey everyone, welcome to Confessions of a Book Coach, episode 3. Okay, I'm going to start really quick with what I did this week. I edited to the end of chapter 8. I read the rules for some beta reader groups and I posted in them. I have had a couple of responses. I haven't responded back, so I need to do that this week. And I added the beta reader information to the plan. I've got this big long document called the plan. So I added that. So I'm keeping track of all of that. Hopefully I will have a really nice kind of marketing plan by the time this is done. But the thing is, when I first wrote my memoir, I didn't actually think about publishing it. I mean, I did have that, wouldn't it be nice if I published this? But I don't think I took myself seriously. What I wanted to do was rewrite the story or reframe my story. I originally wrote it as vignettes, just like I had this long list of moments or events that I wanted to revisit. And I would grab one and I'd write it, and I'd grab another and I'd write it. And every day I just grab a piece of my past and I would write a little vignette about it. And I was just really working through things. I was revisiting experiences and I was looking at them from a different perspective. So even if you're not considering publication, writing your memoirs with a journal and vignettes and short stories or as a book, just the act of writing it can be it can be a really powerful tool, and it can be quite healing. It can really help you self-empower. And it can also be re-traumatizing depending on a number of factors. So you probably, if you do have a story that is quite traumatizing, you do want to be careful how you go about that. But I do think done the right way, it can be really empowering to reframe some of the things that happened in your life. I'll give you an example. For me, I was still struggling with some of the after effects of abuse. For example, my father would call my teachers and tell them what a bad kid I was, how he was trying so hard and how I wouldn't listen and how much he loved me and how I was impossible. He used to preemptively call my teachers and tell them things like this. And so when I got to class, what did they see? Oh yeah, this parent even called me. This kid's real trouble, right? Got to watch out for this one. So he really set me up. Whereas at home, he was an abusive alcoholic. He was a very manipulative abusive alcoholic. And he always set me up to be the bad kid. Turns out I didn't respond well when teachers confronted me and took on that story about me. Why would I respond well to that? I didn't think it was true. Although, okay, I did think it was true, but I was still really angry about it. It was like this fight inside of me. It's true, but I'm trying really hard, right? I believed it since I guess my father had been telling that story all my life. I guess it made sense to me. But when I rebelled, so what I did was I rebelled, and that rebellion was me fighting for myself in the only way I knew how. I was a teenager. Lots of teenagers rebel. Under those circumstances, it seems like that made sense in the context. Now, when I say it made sense in the context, I'm not saying that that was the best response. I'm just saying that made sense in the context. Those are different things. So I was fighting for myself. I was trying to figure out how to feel whole and be treated in a way that I felt respected. And so eventually I grew up and I learned how to communicate in different ways. And I moved on with my life. But that kind of that like bad person messaging, that kind of lingered with me. And so I rewrote my story to deal with that. And that's my original reason for rewriting my story, to deal with the narrative that I had kind of stuck, and to reframe that and to rewrite it in a way that it made more sense to me, that, within that context, that response did make sense. Whether it was the best response or not doesn't matter, but it made sense. And I could kind of see myself in a different light. And so I think that it's a really good idea, actually, to kind of look at some of those stories, that narrative that's holding you back, and rewriting it. And it could be because you've had abusive parents like me, toxic parents, or it could be that you had parents that really tried their best, even if they didn't have all the skills and the tools that they wanted or needed. Or it could be that you had parents who like really loved you and actually did some really wonderful things for you, but now you've grown up and you just want to set your own expectations. You don't want to live with their expectations anymore. That's just healthy, right? So where am I going with this, right? So I wrote the original memoir, the vignettes, back in 2014. After I wrote it, I had all these stories. And so, loving to tell stories, I started kind of telling some of these stories. And then a friend of mine who is also an actor and producer and a performance coach and a voice coach and a self-expression coach, she's an amazing human being, Danielle Benson. She said, "Hey, Melody, have you ever considered turning this into a solo show?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." She's like, "We should do it." So I did. I'm a very adventurous person, and that's a whole other story. So in September 2019, Danielle and I produced and launched my solo show called The Devil's Daughter. It had 10 runs. And here's where it gets interesting. After every single show, somebody in the audience lingered behind and stayed and said, You've given me a new way to look at things. Your story helped me a great deal. I had some amazing conversations with people who are still that kid telling that old story. And it was still affecting them negatively, like it had been me, until I kind of reframed things. And that's when I started to seriously consider publishing my memoir. I took it to a developmental editor. It sounds funny because I'm a developmental editor, but I think developmental editors need developmental editors. I took it to a wonderful person, Jonina Curtin. She's a developmental editor, a poet. She's a beautiful human being, and I needed that outside perspective. And she gave me amazing feedback. I restructured it. Because I'd been thinking about it as the show, and shows and books are different. And so she helped me restructure it, and then I rewrote it again. And then she took another look at it, and then revised it again. And then it sat, and there it just sat and sat and sat. And then in late 2021, when I was working on my goals for 2022, I thought to myself, it's time. I need to pull out that memoir, and I need to commit. I'm either going to publish this or I'm not. I really, really need to commit. So I did. I committed. And as you know, if you've been following along, I'm going to publish this memoir in July 2022 this year. I have a naughty cat too. I have less than 6 months to get this memoir in your hands. So if you've been following along, you will know that I'm looking for beta readers. And I am revising it this one last time before it gets into beta reader hands. And as I said, I have some leads on some beta readers now. That's what I was doing this week. So if you're watching and you too have these old stories in your head, or you have a book hiding away, or any creative act that feels like a risk, I encourage you to consider dealing with the obstacles that are in your way. Don't just throw it out on social media and, bare everything. That's not necessarily a safe place. Consider dealing with the obstacles in a safe way. Show us your work. Deal with the obstacles. Get in a safe place. Show us your work. We want to see it. So what am I doing next week? I've edited up to chapter 8. So this week I'll be editing chapter 9, 10, and 11. I'm going to try to squeeze in chapter 12 if I can. We'll see. I've been thinking about digging out some old pics for promotion purposes, and I need to scan them. Doesn't that sound boring? So maybe I'll at least get started on that or think about that. And I need to follow up some potential beta readers that have responded to my queries. So that's it. That's it for me for this episode 3, Confessions of a Book Coach. I will see you next Monday at about the same time.